Hello everyone and welcome to the Nintendo Switch 2 Extravaganza! And we got a show for you today. 2 game reviews highlighting the best to offer from the main event of the day. You know you love it, the Nintendo Switch 2! And really this is mostly a first strike review of Mario Kart World, since there's not much to say about Welcome Tour, and between both of those titles I'll be covering the system overall. In spite of the over-the-top intro, I will give my honest thoughts about the system and the games throughout this video, but in short, here are my thoughts. For Nintendo diehards like me, this is the perfect version of the already near-perfect Nintendo Switch, but for anyone else, it's alright. Now let's talk about the details of Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart World, as well as a quick splash of Welcome Tour. Like I just said, I am a Nintendo diehard. They didn't have to do much more than they already did with the Switch to get me excited. The Nintendo Switch is already my favorite console ever. There are very few games that I wouldn't want to play on that machine. So I'd have been happy with 1080p and more processing power, like another OLED model, but I got way more than I dared to dream from Nintendo. But let me transition a bit and cover what I experienced in Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, because that's the best gauge for what the hardware in this thing can do. The Welcome Tour is the Switch 2's tech demo. I personally would not call it a game in the usual sense. Yeah, there are some mini-games, but most of this is an interactive museum, giving us a shocking amount of detailed information about how this machine is built and how it runs. There are little collectibles and quizzes throughout, a lot of stuff to read, and some straight-up tech demos to go along with the mini-games throughout. All the mini-games are built to highlight the new features of the system, but especially the mouse controls. That's kind of the only new innovation here, and it works shockingly well. It's nowhere near as comfortable as a gaming mouse, but I think it works great, and thanks to the tech stuff I learned from Welcome Tour, I can say that it is as easy as setting the side of the Joy-Con down, no mouse pad needed, not even a table. Though, your lap is not the smoothest surface to use, so I don't recommend relying on that. That said, there are also mini-games in Welcome Tour that show off things like 4K graphics and 120 FPS that are neat. I actually really like the unlocking minigame linked to the Switch 2 Pro controller, which, yes, means you have to find and buy a Switch 2 Pro controller to play that. And that makes for a convenient transition to have the hard talk. The price. I'll be honest, I have spent more money than I'm willing to admit online, and I personally don't have any regrets. For a Nintendo diehard like me, this is exactly what I want to see from Nintendo. Specifically, keep all of the cool stuff you had with the Switch, power it up a few notches, and add a couple fun new gimmicks. They nailed that assignment. Welcome Tour told me so much about the system that I can also say I'm a little shocked it didn't cost more. That said, I don't blame anyone unwilling to spend so much for what boils down to an improved Switch that's probably still not quite a match for the other consoles available. I'm also sad that I can't recommend most of my friends with families pick it up unless they want to save for a really special occasion. As for Mario Kart World, it was pretty exciting, which really is saying a lot. As much as I love Mario Kart, it's mostly a multiplayer game, and well, I don't get to do that much. But the open world, I thought, would provide some good content for me to enjoy on my own, and the new mechanics looked really fun. After spending time with it, how accurate was that impression? Okay, I think I'm gonna break down Mario Kart World by each mode in the game, because each mode has its own unique changes to the Mario Kart we've known until now. As fun as Mario Kart 8 is, it didn't really bring much new to the table. It was really just the anti-gravity tracks. No shade here, Mario Kart 8 may have been the best so far, but there are quite a few changes throughout Mario Kart World. So, Grand Prix mode, for example, and really every mode, has 24 racers on the track. That doubles the already larger character count from Mario Kart Wii and Mario Kart 8. I expected this to get way crazier, but it's actually not too bad, at least on the slower speeds. But the Grand Prix this time starts with one standard track, followed by a race to get to the next track before you take a lap or two on that at the end of the Grand Prix. This is actually pretty fun for me. It gives me time to practice and learn the new mechanics and figure out how to optimize my speed in this game, because these long straightaways don't give many chances for power sliding. Speaking of, we have some new mechanics this time around. So if you hold the button for jumping and drifting, but you don't turn at all, you build up a charged jump, which may help avoid a shell or two if you can time it right. It also can help you hop onto a rail for a rail ride, or a wall for a wall ride. This is really fun to get good at, and opens up some really risky and satisfying shortcuts. And all three of these come with mini boosts. I'm still practicing, but I think it's going to be huge fun to get really good at maximizing speed in this Mario Kart game. Battle mode and versus mode are mostly unchanged, but versus mode is the only way to experience the tracks in a traditional sense. Though you can also race on various highways, I guess, on the way to the track. That does technically increase the number of tracks available by quite a bit, but otherwise, these modes are all fun. There's really nothing extra special to see here. That leaves the two all-new modes. First, we have Knockout Tour, which is basically the Battle Royale. It's still only 24 racers, but you drive on one enormous track that spans a large portion of the world map, and occasionally a few of the racers that are trailing at the end of the pack get kicked out. It's pretty fun racing on one enormous track. It kind of takes me back to N64 Rainbow Road. Otherwise, Knockout Tour is just more Mario Kart, which is not even slightly a complaint. This mode actually has cups, much like the Grand Prix mode, so I kinda like to think of this as like the booster course for this game. And then there's Free Roam mode. This is the biggest appeal for someone like me, a completionist. Now, I'm not a good completionist, but I do like chasing after all of the things, and Mario Kart World has a good number of things. There are key switch missions with a variety of tasks, from racing through danger, driving through rings, following a certain path. There's a good amount of variety to be had. There are also these Peach tokens throughout the world, which are generally in easy to miss or hard to reach places. Each of the actual racetracks on the map also has at least 5 of these question block panels that are probably designed to show you some of the maneuvers and shortcuts that you could use in the races. These are all pretty fun to do, but there's one catch. For my fellow completionists, there is no easy way to track really most of these. The question block panels are marked on the map in terms of it tells you how many there are on each track and then how many of those you've collected. And the game does also tell you how many costumes each character has left to unlock, which is a feature I just realized now I didn't mention yet. There's an item that gives you a speed boost, like a dash mushroom, but is also how you unlock the costumes. That's kind of fun. I'm glad it's more useful than just unlocking those costumes. And yeah, the costumes are pretty great. But anyway, those key switch missions I was talking about, no indication whatsoever how many there are and how many are left. That's the same for the Peach tokens. It's kind of frustrating, but I do think this mode is mostly for people to hang out with their friends. You know, friends. Those people you play games with, if you have them. Solitude. Alright, back in serious mode here. Question everybody is asking and answering in their own way is whether this game is worth spending $80 on. I could rabbit trail a few different ways here, but if I hadn't gotten the bundle anyway, which saves you $30 on the game, I'd say yeah, it is. Look, the reality is that games are bigger and often better than ever, and while that may or may not be true for Mario Kart World compared to its predecessor, gaming has always been an expensive hobby. Sure, lots of games come free to play now, or at least they go on sale after so much time. But when's the last time you checked how much you spent on that, quote, free game you're always playing? Even I've spent at least $20 on Fortnite, and I hardly ever touch that. It stinks, it really does stink, that some people just can't or won't bother to buy a Switch 2 and/or Mario Kart World at its current price. But nobody has the money and the time to play any and every game that they want to play. Trust me, I have neither of those things. So, I'm gonna choose not to be bitter and angry at Nintendo's prices, and I think those responses are more extreme than they need to be. But if you can't or don't want to buy a Switch 2 yet or ever, that's your choice to make. I'll respect yours if you respect mine. All I can say for sure is that I had a great time playing Mario Kart World with the actual for real friends I do have, and that kind of experience is priceless. So there are my thoughts on Switch 2 and Mario Kart World, especially. Hope you enjoyed the episode. You'll notice it's several months later than it probably should be. The reality is I'm taking care of my mom, and she does have Alzheimer's, so this is just how things are going to be for a little bit. Appreciate your patience and understanding with that. Again, thanks for watching this episode. After this are going to be probably several first strikes that are also way too late, but I'm going to work on getting them out there because I do want to talk about them. There's been a few pretty awesome games this year. Stay tuned for more, and until next time, happy gaming.